What's going on, guys? Enzo here from Enzos Geckos. Today we got a super cool video. We're going to be doing a questions and answers. I put some polls up on my Instagram for you guys. I said ask me questions, ask me whatever. I did it 2 times this last week, and today I'm finally going to be pulling up my phone and answering all these questions. Make sure you guys are following me on Instagram too. It's at Enzos Geckos, so check that out so you can be part of the next Q&A because I want to do this like every few months if I can, because I know that you guys have tons of questions that you leave in the YouTube comments, Instagram, that you guys DM me, and I thought I could just answer it publicly. Also, if you guys noticed, I'm not wearing my Enzos Geckos hat today because I got a haircut. Yeah. Anyway, today's video is sponsored by David Pineda from Bubba's Geckos. If you guys didn't see him last time, on my last video, I did an interview with him, talk with him about his future plans with what's going on with his breeding projects. He's got chameleons, he's got bearded dragons, he has leopard geckos, African fat tails. The dude even has hognose snakes. He's got so many different reptiles he's working with, but because this is a leopard gecko channel, I gotta tell you, his leopard geckos are fantastic. I definitely recommend his stuff to you guys. In fact, he's working with some of my clown genetics. A lot of you guys are asking, where can I get clowns? Where can I get clowns like from your lineage? Well, a lot of the stuff I worked with, I gave to David over the last season or so. So if you guys want some top-notch clowns, if you want some other top-notch morphs, some cool bell stuff, rainwaters, whatever, definitely hit up David at Bubba's Geckos. Without any further ado, let's go onto the Instagram, check out all of the responses we got. The first one we're going to answer is, what is your favorite morph? I get this question was asked plenty of times, so I'm just going to answer it. My favorite morph, as in like a genetic, that is in geckos, that is in leopard geckos. Right now, it'll probably have to be the gem snow. I just like that morph a lot. I've never worked with one, I've never had one or even seen one in person, but I think the gem snows is super, super cool. And if you guys haven't seen this picture right here, it is of a gem snow clown that Matt produced like 5 years ago. We also was talking about it. It was in the bonus clip of my video doing an interview with Matt from Sassafras Reptiles. It's a super cool morph. It's got crazy pattern. It's definitely one of my favorites, and I definitely would want to work with it next time I get back in to leopard geckos. Another one, are you still breeding Leos? The answer to that, if you guys probably know, is I'm not currently breeding leopard geckos. Probably the soonest I could get back is 2023 or 2024. I would really like to, honestly, but just because of my situation, because I'll be in college next year in the dorms, I definitely can't keep geckos and breed them. So unfortunately, I definitely can't for my freshman year of college, which would be next year. But maybe after that, if I move out and live in an apartment somewhere, I could. We got another favorite morph question. Well, this time I'll answer it in a line because I just did a morph as in like a genetic that is passed down. But now we'll do the line. I think my favorite line is still the clown line. I think, you know, the answer to that question is going to remain the same forever unless there's some cool new morph that comes out. But it'll always be the clown line. I mean, it's definitely my favorite morph. This is a really good question right here by Junior's Leos. What are your thoughts on how hard it is to come by the word pure in leopard gecko breeding? Now, this is a really good question. Pure is a difficult word to use. It's not that specific, to be honest. A lot of people say pure as in like a complete 100% something. So, you know, if you've got, you know, a piece of gold jewelry, if you're like, oh, this is pure gold, it means apparently it's only gold and there's no other type of metal in there. Well, think about it the same way with a leopard gecko. If you have a genetic, something like a tangerine or whatever, or an inferno, you go, oh, it's a pure inferno or pure tangerine. I guess that's supposed to mean there's no other, it's not a mix, right? Let's say you're getting a dog, right? That's another example I can use. If you want to get a dog, you could get one from the pound, and it's just a, you know, combination of a bunch of things that are referred to as mutts, whereas you could go to a breeder and buy a, I don't know, whatever dog breed that you like that's completely that breed. I guess it's hard to come by pure leopard geckos breeding, just because a lot of times there's not the best genetic lineage. So that's why I definitely recommend when you're going to a breeder, when you're going to be buying from someone, you got to know the lineage. That's super important. When you're breeding leopard geckos too, not just as a buyer, but as a seller, you need to be able to look back and retrace that lineage, know exactly what pairings the parents came from, grandparents, as much as you can. As far as you can track back the genetics, the better it is. You can even charge more money for that, honestly, when you're selling geckos. If you're like, hey, look at this, I've got the genetics of this gecko's parents, this gecko's parents, and even the great-grandparents of the gecko I'm selling, right? So that's a really important thing. you know, like I said, it's just kind of hard to come by the word pure. You need a lot of proof to say something is, you know, pure. Next question, rarest morph. Well, that's another difficult one. Sometimes some of the more rare morphs nowadays are the ones that no one really breeds. So I would say for something like the ghost or the Albie Snow, Evan, right here, Evan from Decked Out Geckos. The dude works with those. It's a pretty rare morph. It's very hard to come by. You could also say maybe the ciphers are, which is a picture right here for reference. Ciphers are also super rare because they're just a newer one of the more recent discovered leopard gecko genes. So I guess it would be pretty rare. I don't think many of them have been released to the public. Someone said, where can I get some G Project clowns? Like I said earlier in the sponsor of today's video, David from Bubba's Geckos, the dude, ask him for some clowns. He'll have some heat this year. He might not be releasing too much, but I would definitely say go to David from Bubba's Geckos, Josh from Josh's Geckos, or Nick from NV Geckos. Those are my three recommendations to go for. Or you could go for like ask Andy Fox from Spotty Tail Geckos. He's got some good stuff. John Byer from JB Leopard Geckos, John Scarborough from Gecko Boa. There's tons of people out there with some top-notch geckos that I would definitely consider looking for. And now we got a question from the sponsor. David Bubba's Gecko said the top 5 influences in the hobby. I guess he meant influencers. I would assume so. I guess, I don't know. I mean, I would say, I think my videos are pretty helpful to people, and a lot of people in the leopard gecko hobby check out my stuff. But I would definitely say Ron Tremper is super influential. You know, I've got both of his books right here. He's wrote some pretty good books on leopard gecko husbandry and morphs. So definitely Ron. You know, you probably have to say Matt from Sasabek. I mean, I did a video with him the other day. Matt has a whole channel that people grew up watching and that people have found so much information on. So definitely Matt from Sasabek Reptiles. I'd also say Evan from Strength and Leos. I've talked about this with him a little bit. I think he's very influential. I think he's had some very, very big names on his podcast, but he's a very modest guy, and he's like, I think you're more influential than me. But I'm like, Evan, you know what, dude, you've done a lot of work. You know, Evan's done a lot of work, and I think he's pretty influential, given all the information that the dude has. He's got so much information. Let's see. Top 10 USA breeders, someone asked. Nick from NV Geckos asked me. I don't really know exactly how to answer this top 10 as in the best morphs or the most reputable or whatever, but I would definitely say that some of the best breeders, I don't want to do a list of 10, but I'm going to say the breeders that you should definitely be considering looking at is Gecko Boa, Suburban Geckos, Decked Out Geckos. I would say those three are like the top 3 breeders right now. I mean, other people also like Mutant Geckos or Impeccable Gecko. They've really got it going for themselves. Or Xeno Gecko Morphs. I mean, there's so many. I mean, these are just ones that I'm pulling off the top of my head. So there's honestly so many more breeders that you could go to. But the ones that I just threw out right now are some pretty darn good ones. You know, or Matt from Sasabek. I don't really know what's going on with him, if he's going to be selling a lot this year. From the interview, it sounded like he's not going to be selling too much in 2021. But he's definitely one of the top 10 breeders, I would say. Now we're going to go to the other set of questions. I got some questions. Those were questions from the other day. These are questions I asked earlier today. So we're going to see right here. Got a bunch more of favorite morph questions. I already answered some of those. Where to find available clowns. Like I said earlier, check out David from Bubba's Geckos. Dude's got some cool stuff. Nick from NV Geckos. Josh from Josh's Geckos. You know, you could go to some of the bigger dogs in the hobby like Gecko Boa too. Any other tips or tricks for heat management in multiple rack/reptile rooms? I would say you could definitely get a Vivarium Electronics VE200 ×2 thermostat. It's not this one, I believe, but you can get one, and it has 2 plugins in the back. So you can plug it into 2 different racks, or you can use a Helix, the Helix thermostat too. Those ones are super good too. The Helix DBS 1000. I think you can find it online at like LLL Reptile. It's a super good one. What I like most about the VE200 ×2 is you can have different temperatures for different areas. So you got the probes that have the feedback to the thermostat of what the temperature is, and you can have 2 different temperatures. So you can have a rack for babies if you want to keep them a little bit colder at like 90 degrees, and then you could have a rack for adults that you want to keep a little bit warmer at 92 degrees, just for example. So I would definitely recommend that. But also heat management, I would say, just because of what's been going on lately. If you guys don't know, there's been a lot of, it's been really cold lately. There's been some power outages. There has been storms lately that have made things really, really cold, and a lot of people have lost entire collections and reptiles and power. So I would definitely recommend you get some heat packs, not just for shipping, but ready to go. If your geckos cool down, you can just put one on every single layer of your rack and then cover it with a blanket to help insulate it. It will be dark for your geckos, but they're nocturnal, so they won't really mind. We got a lot more questions here. Nick from Envy Geckos asked, what do you think of me? Well, Nick's a really good buddy of mine. I was actually thinking of doing a video talking about some of the great stuff he has. But I think Nick's a great breeder. He's a really cool dude too. I mean, like I said, like if you listen to my last talk with David, we're talking about Nick, how Nick always has something to say. He's always got the next plans. I mean, I think the dude is ready for the 2030 breeding season at this point. If I return, will I ever ship to Canada? Honestly, I probably will. I mean, I definitely want to get, look into worldwide shipping, or at least Canada and Mexico. That would be pretty cool, especially with the pandemic. It's really hard. It wasn't an option for me to be shipping anywhere except for the continental United States. So I would definitely consider shipping to Canada if I return, or when I return, because I will. Do you think I will return to the hobby? The same person asked, and yes, I think I will. I mean, I'm definitely still in the hobby. I'm still producing content. I just monetized my channel too, so my channel's doing pretty well. So yeah, I mean, I'm still in the hobby. I just am not currently breeding. I mean, I've still got my awesome gecko right here. How often do females ovulate between January and July, and how long does each ovulation last? I don't know the exact answer to this question, just because so many females are so different. I mean, usually if you've had your females together in one rack for long enough, at least, a few months or so, they should be ovulating around the same time all together. You just need to be checking on that. For me, I checked one of them and she was ovulating, and then I put my males with a bunch of the other females in 2020, and they all just started breeding because most of the females were ovulating. So they just all ovulate together. Whenever one of them does it, you can probably check the other ones, and they are. And if you're not sure, all you do is put a male in there, and if the female lets him pair, then she's probably ovulating. And each ovulation, you've probably got like a 1 to 2 week period if you see the female ovulating. So it's not like you need to put the male in, otherwise you're going to miss your opportunity overnight. Probably not. If you catch it at any point, you've probably got about, at least a whole week to pair a male in there. Let's see. Who is your favorite breeder? Josh's Geckos asks. Cough, cough, Josh's Geckos. Really, Josh? I'm just kidding. I can't say that. I mean, I can't see who my favorite breeder is. There's so many. What do I hope for the next few seasons in the hobby? Well, I definitely want to see more people. Working with the clown genetic. I mean, I think it's doing really well, and a lot of people, the clown line, a lot of people are working with it. A lot of people are buying them. I just want to see breeders who are establishing a good reputation for themselves and making a good name for the hobby. As David and I were talking about in my last episode and talk, it's all about being together in the hobby as one and working towards what will make the hobby the best, not just my business the best, or not just your business the best, not just your sales, whatever, your lines. It's about making the whole hobby better, and the whole hobby is really a lot better if you're keeping good genetics, and if you're being a good business person, you're being really respectful and kind. I think that's super important. So that's what I just want to see. I just want to see the humility that us breeders and buyers have in this leopard gecko world. All right, good question here. What made you interested in leopard geckos? Well, I had a leopard gecko when I was young. I was probably, I don't know. I really don't know. I'd say like 8 to 9 years old. I had a leopard gecko for a while, housed it on sand, gave it a light the same way that many people do when they go to Petco or PetSmart. And I just had it around for a while, and then a friend of mine, she had a ball python, and she told me that he was a special morph, and I said, well, what the heck's a morph? What do you mean he's a morph? And she told me essentially what it was, and I started watching ball python videos, on YouTube or Instagram, checking people's stuff out, and I learned that there were all these beautiful morphs of crazy looking combinations, and then I was like, whoa, that's crazy, that's super cool. I didn't know there was a thing in reptiles. And then for a second I thought about it, I'm like, oh, what if leopard geckos look like this too? Like maybe leopard geckos have, morphs, because I had just learned that word. And sure enough, they did, and I'm like, this is super cool, I gotta get some. So that's how it started. Let's see, why doesn't my leopard gecko want to breed even though she's ovulating? That's a good question. I mean, it depends on how many times you have tried to pair her. You should definitely try and pair her a couple times. She might be a little bit too young, or she might be not weigh enough. But you know, you can just put a male in there. If she's not interested, take the male out. Try again in a day or two. You can just keep on doing that. If you miss her ovulation, it's okay. You know, it's all right if you miss that. She'll probably will ovulate again in the next couple months. How much humidity should my leopard gecko incubator have? Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. All I do is do a certain ratio. I do a ratio of 1:1 of water to vermiculite when I put the incubation medium and the incubation trays down. So that means for every 1 gram of water, I'm putting 1 gram of vermiculite in there to balance it out. And I just try and maintain that. You kind of have to go by how it feels. A lot of people ask me what percent humidity to use. I don't know. I never have measured it. I've never tried. I honestly just, you know, after a while you just spray it and you feel what feels good, and you just see how the egg reacts. If the egg gets some mold on it, it's probably a little bit too humid. If the egg starts to cave in a little bit, it's probably too dry. Do I need to add water to hatchite substrate? I believe so. I'm pretty sure hatchite is pretty much around just the same thing as vermiculite, so you're definitely going to want to add some water to that. Like I said, just do a 1:1 ratio, nice and simple. And you can just keep maintaining that throughout the duration of the hatch of the gecko. Alright guys, well that just about does it. I tried to answer as many questions as I got. I mean, I only got so many. But if I want to do this video again, I definitely want you guys to be asking questions that you want to know about leopard geckos, about breeding, about husbandry, whatever it may be, about me. I don't even care. I'll answer whatever. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure to check out David Bubba's Geckos on Instagram. Check him out on Facebook. Check him out. He probably has Morph Market. I'm not even sure. But also check out his YouTube, which is Bubba's Living Emporium. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.